Welcome, everybody, to episode 94 of the Standing 8 podcast. This episode is being live streamed on this Monday, October 4th. We greatly appreciate everyone who is able to patch in live, whether it be on Facebook or YouTube. I'm your host, Aaron Soriao from Los Angeles. We've got the usual suspects in the building. Let me pull up the panelists for tonight's show, episode 94. We've got Tiffanie Daniels representing Stephen Ruiz. What's up, man? Cortney Tanner, the Burt Brown Sugar, and Gary Kittleson of 3D Boxing Blog. We're all hyped up. We're gonna talk about the festivities that happened this past Saturday. So without further ado, we're going to discuss, react, break down Canelo Alvarez clear-cut unanimous decision victory over Jermell Charlo, marketed as Undisputed versus Undisputed. The Showtime pay-per-view event was held this past Saturday, September 30th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. And also we got Michael Gomes out in New Jersey, Signature Realty Group. What's up, Michael? So thank you, sir. Welcome. So as I was saying, so it was held at September this recent Saturday at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. You had the undisputed 154-pound champion Jermell Charlo moving up 2 weight classes to challenge the pound-for-pound megastar Canelo Alvarez for his undisputed status at super middleweight. It was clearly Canelo's night as he landed power shots with ease, cutting off Charlo's movement at virtually every turn, and even dropping Charlo with a nicely timed overhand right in the 7th round. If I had to choose one word to characterize Charlo's performance, it would be that of survival. I don't recall one round where Charlo made any attempt to make his mark in the fight. It was like almost every punch thrown by Charlo was just to keep Canelo at bay, with no real intention to hurt Canelo. So with that being said, of my assessment, let me go to you, Tiffanie, because I know off air you said you had to be somewhere, you have other engagements. So I want to get your thoughts first, so you could sound off. The podium is yours, Tiffanie. Welcome to tonight's stream, by the way. Oh, unmute.
There we go. Thank you. Welcome to be here. Thank you for having me today. I don't know. For me, that was just disappointing. I was just disappointed because I felt like Charlo had so much rage and anger against Terence Crawford when he was fighting Errol Spence, but then you get in the ring to fight and nothing. It was just a huge disappointment. And people was like, oh, well, it was a size advantage, but like Charlo's huge. Let's be clear. Canelo's a big guy, stocky, but at the end of the day, Charlo was taller. He had a longer reach, and he had an opportunity to do things, and he just had no answer for anything. I was just thoroughly disappointed in Charlo's performance. And like you said, Aaron, it was more like survival, getting to the 12th round. I didn't think he was going to make it to the 12th round. Canelo did. I wouldn't even say he did an amazing performance, but it was definitely a domination of Charlo. And now he's like telling Terence Crawford, I want to fight you, when he just was screaming at Michael Irving? Screaming at Michael Irving, we ain't in the same weight class. Well, I'm fighting Canelo. All that bullshit he was talking. And now it's, I want to fight Terence Crawford now. Like, boy, get out of here. I don't even want to hear it anymore. I just feel like it was a disappointment. I don't even think he should go back down to 154. I feel like he should just go to 160. He's just a big guy. He just need to move forward and just continue on. So that's my opinion.
On that note, it was funny. It's interesting you said that because, after the fight, you saw Jermell all elated because it was a big payday. And also he was very excited. He couldn't wait to get back to 154 and resume what he was doing down there. So great assessment, Tiffanie. Let's go to you, Gary of 3D Boxing Blog. Give us your reaction assessment of the fight.
I'm pretty much 100% with Tiffanie. I thought Canelo would win. I thought on points, but I thought it'd be a lot more competitive. I thought Charlo would press the action. Look, Charlo has the same height and reach to the T as Bivol. I thought the game plan was kind of like there for him to follow. It would be a little harder for him to follow because he's probably not as strong as Bivol. He's not natural at that size. But I was giving Steven a hard time off that. I don't think there was much of a size advantage. I remember I talked to Bernard Hopkins at a Golden Boy event when they announced the fight, and he said, "No, Charlo's not too small for Canelo." And I just thought pretty early on, Charlo was content with just going the distance, which is really heartbreaking because that's my guy. Where is he? There he is. It's one of my favorite fighters in the sport. And I thought he had the game plan. I thought he had the blueprint to do it. Don't let, Canelo just come forward on you. Stand your ground, use your height, use your reach, and back him up when you can. And Charlo seemed content just going backwards and surviving. Even in the middle rounds, when he had a couple of moments, he never really followed up, right? It's like he was never really willing to put his balls on the table and say, if I get knocked out, I get knocked out, but I'm going to try to win this. I'm going to try to make history here and, be the first guy to simultaneously be undisputed in 2 weight classes. And and then after the fight, he didn't seem broken down. Like, when Danny Jacobs lost to Canelo, he knew he had blown his chance. Right? I could have fought better. I could have done something different. Charles really feeling this. Like, okay, I want to fight Crawford next. Like, it's okay. He's bigger than me. It's like, he's not that much bigger than you. It wasn't like it's an unfair, like when Kell Brook fought Triple G or something like that. It wasn't, it didn't look like a mismatch in the ring. I'm just really disappointed with the way that Charlo just seemed content on running for 12 rounds. When like Billy Joe Saunders tried that, got destroyed. Caleb Smith tried that, got destroyed. Caleb Plant tried that. And you can't run from Canelo for 12 rounds. He's going to catch you. He's going to break you down. And when he does, he's going to stop you. Now, Charlo was able to survive, but you can't run from him for 12 rounds, right? Floyd did it. And Laura did it, right? I know Laura didn't get the decision, but we all thought Laura won except for Steve. So 2 things. Canelo was like 23 then. He's way better now than he was then. And I don't care who you are. You're not as good as Floyd, and you're not even as good as Laura. So you're not going to be able to do what they did. So, make him go backwards. Make him uncomfortable. If you get knocked out in the interim, that's your only chance to win. And Charlo wasn't willing to do that.
Yeah, Gary, thanks for your breakdown. And also, I shared the same feelings of disappointment as well. So great stuff, Gary. Let's go to you, Mr. Mike Gomes. Give us your reaction, your emotions on this fight. Go ahead, Michael.
I was going to start off by making cat noises, meow, because it's not lions only. Look, I think everybody here didn't really think that Charlo had a chance, but we all expected that he was going to come in and die by the sword, right? Very much similar like the way Deontay did with Tyson Fury. I just didn't. I think that he went into the ring, and I said this before, to collect his paycheck. I think that he always knew that he could justify the loss by saying that he came up to fight one of the greatest fighters in the history of boxing, one of the greatest fighters, to currently still be in the ring. And I think that he sold himself out. Do I think he's got the heart to compete? When I say compete, I'm just simply saying what Caleb did in his last couple of fights, what Caleb did when he fought against Canelo. I'm saying just put your heart out and at least try for it. Go for the gusto. Do something. Like, go for history. He didn't do that. And I think that's where he will get criticized for. Charlo's a very good fighter. No one's taking that away from him. But it just seemed that he was content going in there specifically to go get that check. And that's been what I've been saying right from the beginning, that he is in there for a paycheck. It is a very big paycheck for him. But nonetheless, I always thought that at least he would make it competitive from the giving a try standpoint, from the heart standpoint. He didn't do that. And I think he chose not to do it. I think he tried very hard not to get hit. And look, it's tough when you go into the ring and you go, and by the way, Canelo is the smaller guy, height wise. I mean, I've been next to both of them in New York. Charlo is not small. Charlo, and Tiff is right. He should go to 160. He shouldn't go to 154. I don't think that's an excuse. Charlo is a very big guy. I think from a size perspective, he could have competed. I think that he just noticed that the difference in power is very significant. And I think a lot of people notice that, right? When you go in there with Canelo, there is a significant difference in strength. You saw that. Same thing with like a guy like Bud. You go in there, Bud is not going to be always the bigger guy. You saw it against Errol, and Errol got a taste of how powerful he is. And you saw what you saw what Bud did with Errol. He bullied him in the ring. Same thing with Canelo. Canelo was just bullying him in the ring. I am very disappointed in that. I think that him not giving a try brings down his stock and value a little bit. Or in my opinion, as a fan, not as a casual, for me, I was very disappointed. I mean, I don't think he won a round. I think that was probably Canelo's most dominant performance in the ring against somebody of Charlo's caliber, right? Because Charlo's not he's not some B-level fighter, in my opinion, right? I think everybody here holds him in high regard. So in terms of who his competition was, I think that was Canelo's probably most dominant performance in his career so far, right? Against that caliber fighter. Just disappointed, but excited to see what's going to happen next. I think Canelo is going to fight more than likely, probably the winner of the Andrade versus Morrell fight, if I'm not mistaken. What's next? And then after that, you'd be foolish not to think that the third fight is not against Benavidez, right? It seems like that's the setup. That's what they're going for. That's the storyline. So I'm excited for at least that. Charlo can chill at 54. I don't know if he can chill at 54, D-Rock. You got two guys coming up to 54, Errol and Bud. I don't think he wants to stay there for that. I think he's going to move over to 160, like Tiffanie was saying. I don't think Charlo wants to fight against Bud. I wouldn't want that fight. If I'm Derek James, I wouldn't want that fight for Charlo. If in my opinion, who knows? Had he gotten knocked out, I'm just reading the comments. Had he gotten knocked out, his stock falls dramatically. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah, had he gotten knocked out, yes, he's right. His stock would have fallen dramatically, and I think that by not getting knocked out and just simply surviving, I think that he can hide behind the excuse of Canelo's the better fighter. I moved up 2 weight classes to go fight, one of the best fighters in history. Yeah, I mean, he can justify the loss. I don't think it's going to hurt his career amongst the casual fans, but amongst people like us that are pundits that watch the sport very closely, right? We don't just watch the big matches. He lost a lot of stock with us. That's what I'm saying. I think all of us can share the same constant when it comes to that.
Can I just ask a question though? Because I get what Daniel Pena is saying, right? But like, if Charlo would have went in there, gave it hell, fought off the front foot, got into a firefight, and got knocked out in the middle rounds, would his stock really go down that much though, compared to what it did?
Not at all. I've been arguing with Daniel Pena. Shout out to him. He's blowing up the chat. And me and him are going back and forth. He said had he gotten knocked out, his stock would have fallen dramatically. But Caleb Plants didn't. He's respected for going out on the shield. And then who else? You know who else went 12? Was Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And the exact same thing that Charlo just did. He went in there, didn't open up, stayed in his shell, and survived. Do we care that Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. survived? Not at all. Do we care that Charlo survived? Not at all. Everybody felt robbed. So he's saying Plant isn't undisputed, but Plant actually gave the fans their money's worth. Charlo went out there and gave Canelo a sparring session. So I like Daniel Pena. He's in the chat. He's it up, but I also know he hates Canelo. That's okay. I'll always rock for Canelo. But I respect somebody that went out there and gave it their all versus just, well, I didn't want to get knocked out, so my stock wouldn't fall. Are you kidding me? Nobody's going to pay to see that crap again with Bud. Everybody's already saying that. And Bud himself said, nah, you just blew it with me, player. Like, I don't want to see that. So I'll wait my turn again, but his stock wouldn't go down.
Just to piggyback what you just said, you mentioned Caleb. I think Caleb's fan base and stock and value went up because of that. I don't know if D-Rock is saying if he got knocked out in the manner that he was already fighting, because if he went there and gave it his all and actually fought toe-to-toe and fought in the middle of the ring and center of the ring with Canelo and then got knocked out, I would have to disagree with him, and I have to agree with you as well.
Great stuff all around. Cortney, let's get your thoughts on the fight, as well as the comments Daniel Pena has made as far as his stock is concerned. Go ahead, Cortney.
Well, I think you all know here on the panel, and everybody who's tuning in knows that D-Rock, Daniel Pena, is my friend. Has been for years. He is a person who is entitled to all the respect in the world, and therefore is entitled to talk all the shit he wants to, tuning in on the chat. And I thank him for being an active participant. But I'm just gonna say it, man. Daniel, you're in the peanut gallery on this one. And the thing is, you are better than what you're showing in your full-throated defense of Charlo. And where Stephen Ruiz already pointed it out, it has to do more with degradation or minimization of Canelo than it actually does about what you really think about Charlo. Because this is the thing, is Charlo performed in a way that is not worthy of your defense of him right now. Charlo talked shit for years. Big cash money shit, as far as, basically he talked himself into an ass whooping and then didn't want to take it. Like that's all that amounts to. And, you know what I'm saying? He showed up, got his check, but I mean, in terms of this mantra of lions only, in terms of, what he was saying in the ring, when Bud basically pointed to him in the schoolyard and said, "Yo, you next, homie." He looks silly. He looks silly, and so defense of that is inherently by proxy also silly. Because, like I said, he's done nothing to deserve that. He didn't perform in a way. Now, am I saying that I want to go in there and see him take damage, just to prove a point? Or just for him to say he got his comeuppance per se? No, but it's the thing. It's like, okay, you talked yourself into that fight. For years, you've been saying what you would bring to the table against Canelo, and then you didn't bring any of it. Basically, Charlo was reduced to some fresh step kitty litter in there, and that's what that performance looked like, or what goes into it rather. But it's I predicted that Canelo would go in there and he would finish him late. In the 7th round when he dropped him, it looked like it was going to be sooner than that. But then you saw Charlo's strategy change from there, as where he went from cautious to where it was, okay, maybe he's working towards something, or maybe he's going to try to drag Canelo into deep waters and test out the stamina issues that Canelo has been dealing with. But then when he hit the deck, it was, he packed it up after that, both mentally and from a strategic and tactical standpoint. There were some instances where Charlo was starting to open up, starting to throw some combinations, starting to look a little crispier in there. But then I think it was also disheartening that he was, Canelo was eating them joints that he was putting on him. And I think when he saw it from there, that coupled with him, having to take that knee and save himself in there, he just decided that he was going to go in there with or go back in there with the intention of us answering the last bell and seeing the second round, And he even said it, he said, well, everybody else got knocked out and I made it to the 12th round. Well, I mean, the thing is too, is everybody else opened up and tried to get, they tried to get at Canelo. If you look at Caleb Plant, if you look at Billy Joe Saunders, if you look at the other guys Canelo has dispatched, it came to a point where he had to get them because they were trying to get him, as opposed to where Charlo was in there and, Canelo was he was intent to hit him with that looping, that looping shot, and put that on rewind the rest of the round. With Charlo too, is I don't think Charlo got exposed per se. I think Derek James did though. As far as what the public has been putting out there in terms of his stable, the guys who he's under or whatnot. I mean, Derek James, yeah, he was on his ass, he was in his ear, and telling him what he what he needed to do, but he didn't really give him anything plausible as far as a strategy, as far as dealing with Canelo. And Canelo wasn't really coming in with anything that was complicated. Charlo was, saying he was a defeated, he was just shook fighter in there. And the result is a testament of it.
It's interesting you bring up Derek James, because Michael Gomes, you were at the pre-fight press conference, and when you were speaking to him, he just gave you cliche answers. Like, I know you don't expect him to give him your strategy, but there was nothing quotable from him when he gave you that short interview. It was like you knew that Derek James knew that this wasn't the fight for Jermell. Did you want to speak more on that, Michael Gomes? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, his body language spoke very heavily on what he thought the outcome was going to be. He was very clear and concise with his message that Charlo had to be the best version of himself, right? When someone says that, all they're doing or all they're saying is basically conveying the fact that I don't think my guy's got it in him enough to be able to beat the guy, on the other side of this table. And I think that Cortney's right. It's not the fact that his fighter lost. It's the fact that Errol loses the way he lost to Bud. Then a couple of months later, Charlo now loses in the same, not in the same manner, but loses in a pretty, in my opinion, shameful manner against Canelo, right? It just seemed that they're not coming up with any sort of strategy or game plan. They're not masterminding whatsoever. They're just, again, I hate to say it, but it just feels like they're going in there for the paycheck, right? And I get it. Health is very important. Health goes over everything. But I mean, these guys step in the ring all the time. They're risking their lives, day in and day out. What's the difference between a Canelo and another fighter? In my opinion, if you're going into the ring against Canelo, it should be about legacy. It should be about showcasing to the entire world what you are made out of inside, right? Because we know Charlo is very talented, right? He is extremely talented. He has the skill set to be able to compete with the caliber fighter of Canelo's nature. It wasn't that, because like Cortney said, he did put in, there was moments where he did look like, a great boxer who's going to come in and compete. And then he would shy away from it. That's where it's disappointing, where someone shows flashes of greatness and then just shies away. And a lot of that has to be pegged on Derek James. And I think definitely damage to the brand. I'm just reading Nancy's comment. Yeah, definitely damage to the brand for sure, right? Especially when you're saying Lions only. When that's your model, we're expecting that you're coming in and you're going to put up a fight. And if it matters going down, then so be it. If it matters, getting knocked out or getting knocked down, so be it. Show the world, show the entire fan base, your fan base and Canelo's fan base, that you are a special fighter. And I think that would have done him much more good than bad. And that's where, if I don't know what D-Rock's intent was in his comment, I just think that he meant to say that, in the way Charlo was fighting, if he got knocked down, I think that would hurt him a lot. Yes. But if he got knocked down or lost via KO, where he was putting the pressure on Canelo and he's bringing a fight and he's going in a set, that wouldn't have affected his brand. In fact, that would have increased his brand because he had the guts to step in there with a guy 2 weight classes higher, and he had the courage, right, the audacity to go toe-to-toe. The same way Canelo, first fight, that's where I give him his respect against Triple G. Triple G was the boogeyman of that division, right? His own corner was very cautious and scared for Canelo. I think round 8 or round 9, his corner told Canelo, don't go toe-to-toe with this guy, because they knew how dangerous, Triple G was. And Canelo chose to go toe-to-toe, although I think he lost that fight. That's a separate argument. But he did go to, toe-to-toe with Triple G. He did get my respect for doing it. He did get my respect in the second fight for doing it again and going toe-to-toe and actually bringing a fight to Triple G. He got my respect, right? And also the same, on the third fight. He got my respect for doing that. If he laid back and justified losing because Triple G was just a bigger guy and the more powerful guy, and he didn't really belong in that division. I don't know if Canelo would have gotten respect from losing in that manner. I think that if he had lost the first fight against Triple G, I think he still would have gotten respect. I think his stock still would have, increased because he went to the middle of the ring. He did fight. He put a valiant effort. That's what we wanted as fans. We just wanted to see Charlo put a valiant effort. And, and again, not that we want to see him hurt, but we just wanted him to be competitive in there. I thought it was kind of embarrassing in my opinion. I thought it did more than just hurt the brand. I think that these guys have been losing a lot of respect in the streets now, credibility in the streets for about a year and a half, 2 years now. They've been calling this guy's name out for a long time. And then you have the opportunity to make it competitive. And this is what you showcase. This is how you act. I don't know. To me, just, I actually turned off the fight after round 10. That's how I shut it off.
Great point, Mike. And I want to piggyback your point off and at the same time direct to Steven. Steven, I want to get your assessment of the fight, but also I want to follow up with this question to you, Steven. During the fight, we saw that the commentators, they complained that Jermell was showing Canelo too much respect. But ironically, Charlo's effort alone, I know he was there for the payday, but like Michael Gomes said, aside from that, if you're fighting against Canelo, you would at least want to give it your all, the effort, right? And making it an exciting fight. The fact that he didn't bring his end to the table as far as making it an exciting fight from Charlo's end, do you kind of see that as somewhat sort of a disrespect to Canelo as well? And also give us your thoughts on the fight as well. Steven, go ahead.
All right, so I have so much to unpack, but I'll get it done so quickly. I'll be very efficient. Shout out Michael Gomes, because we said this in an earlier episode. I'm here. I'm a fan. I said myself, I'd fight for $1 million to Charlo. I'm there to win, and no, I'm not. I'm here to collect my $1 million, get knocked out, shake his hand, thank him very much, and get the hell on. And that's what we said was going to happen, and that's exactly to a T what happened. We went out, going off the show. Yeah, these guys, even when Canelo was with Golden Boy, both Charlos said, I'll fight Canelo. I'll fight Canelo. It's been on TMZ. He ducked me. I ducked him. And there was a whole controversy. Oscar De La Hoya. Oh, well, we sent out contracts to the Charlos. They didn't take it. The Charlos, I never got a contract. They ducked me. It's been going on. Showtime, all access events. Both these guys are on the side, ringside. Canelo can't beat me with that rider performance. He's in his backyard like I'm in my backyard. Talking about can't beat me with that. Eddie Hearn, set it up. The Charlo versus Canelo. That could be a big thing in boxing. Clearly, he was drinking like I was. I don't know what he had. Shout out my Canelo Koozie. But Charlo's in his backyard saying, Eddie Hearn, set it up. Even though he should have said Eddie Hearn, but he said Eddie Hearn. But it don't matter. That's where he was at. In his mental, you say things when you've been drinking, I guess, and the truth comes out. He said it. I want that undisputed versus undisputed. It could be a big thing in boxing. You're on the side of every Canelo fight saying, I can beat that Canelo. He's gassing out. And what ends up happening? You call down the thunder. It came, and you're like, he's never been in there with me. And then he's in there with you. And you can show him what you're about. Lions Only Promotions. You're there to represent Lions Only Promotions. Your brother already ducked it, so you're stepping in. Everything is showing. Go out there, do the thing, and you froze. You look like Eminem 8 Mile the first time, and you choked. You didn't even get out the starting gates. You didn't even throw a jab. You weren't even pumping out the jab. Canelo was walking straight up to you, putting you right on the corners, just like Castano did. And Castano is not Canelo. And I said that in every type of boxing blog, forum, everyone that shout out Standing Eights forum, shout out Gary 3D Boxing. I said it in all of them. Canelo is not Castano. Canelo is not Tony Harrison. So the things that you are doing against them are just going to get magnified so much faster. And shout out to your boy Mike Gomes, D-Rock. Those Canelo haters, man, they're out there. They're pulling for anybody. You know how many Mexicans I know that pulled for Triple G and they were like, Triple E. Couldn't find 5 Mexicans to point Kazakhstan on a map if I gave them 1 million coronas. That's how bad it is. These Canelo guys are out there to just hate on Canelo. So if you can go out there and you can give Canelo a performance or even make him look bad in the slightest, your stock would have shot up. So D-Rock saying like, it would have went down. Hell no, because I promise you, this the same guys, Daniel Pena, like I said, shout out to your opinions, and my boy Jimmy Blue, he's not the biggest Canelo fan either, but they would have said, you know what? Crawford buries Canelo because look what Charlo did to him in the 7th or the 9th or the 11th. He tagged him and he hurt him to the body and he made him gas. Anything that can damage Canelo's brand, these Canelo haters will jump all over it. But when you do that, we already knew what was going to happen. The goalpost was going to move. Oh, well, Charlo's 2 divisions down, so that wasn't going to happen. Like Canelo hasn't shot up to fight Bivol. Like he wouldn't try and go up to Kovalev. These are still bigger guys. It's just because it's Canelo doesn't mean, oh, well, it sucks for him. We don't like it. But when it happens to our guy, well, it's a pass. Nah, forget all that. So you turned in a performance that bad that even Bud Crawford is like, nah, I'm off that. I don't want a sparring session. I can do that in Omaha by myself with my guys. So you almost hurt your brand because you almost fought your way or didn't fight your way out of a fight with Terence Crawford, and that would have been your second biggest money fight. So I think it actually hurt his brand to kind of argue a little bit with D-Rock's point there. But I like it. The things that for me were proven was Canelo slipping. Okay. His stamina issues. Okay. He's old. He's the same age as Charlo, 33. And I get the whole wear and tear when he started with 16 and Charlo doesn't have that much wear and tear on him. But it answered a couple questions. Canelo, they said, oh, it's hard to train when you're in silk pajamas, while Canelo's literally wearing Dolce & Gabbana silk pajamas everywhere he goes. And he's earned that right. A lot of money. And so go. But he said, I spent a whole month away from my family. And when you've got that kind of money, that kind of power, that kind of pull, and you're still doing poor man stuff, that tells you you're still there. And when you lose to Bivol, I think that eats at him at night, saying like, I'm taking that fight like he said, my hand was hurt. And whether some haters will say it's an excuse and supporters will say, yup, you see, he had his hand hurt. He got it repaired after that undisputed run. And look at his output against Charlo. It was a lot more as opposed to I'm going to counter. Granted, that's to a smaller guy. So he wasn't really worried about the return. But you could say, you can say, okay, the output was there. So we can build on that. Did he look like he was fading? Not at all. Did you have to be in boxing shape to be able to withstand shots? Let's not forget, Charlo landed some good shots. It just sucks when a guy like Canelo, one of the strongest jaws in the game besides Triple G, can eat that like it's what is that? What do they call those crappy burgers in Cali? What are those little baby burgers? In and out.
Move on, bro. Move on.
Oh,
Watch
yeah.
Yourself, bro. Watch yourself.
It just sucks when Canelo can eat those Charlo shots like little baby In-N-Out burgers. You could be like, give me 10 of those. It don't even matter, bro. I'm going to walk through that. Charlo did himself no favors by pumping out the jabs, being on the ropes. So it was what it was, but I was glad to see it because there was a lot of talk. Canelo's out. He's on the decline. And it's like that Canelo, he said it himself. And I got to take him for his word. This Canelo, nobody beats this Canelo. And it's hard to argue that if you're a hater of Canelo to be like, well, he did have an undisputed guy's hands in his pockets all night. There's a reason guys do that. When Jermell said, I just didn't feel like myself. That's what Canelo does. That's what great fighters do. Look at Canelo to Floyd. Canelo didn't look anything like Canelo does against Floyd. It's just a better fighter neutralized what you're good at. So props to that. Take it from it, go on to the next thing, and do the best thing you can. I want to see Canelo hopefully fight Benavidez because there's a lot of people that say he needs to fight Benavidez. And then if he fights him and let's say he wins, well, he needs to rematch Bivol. And then let's say he does that. Well, now he needs to fight better BF. But meanwhile, none of these guys are ever fighting each other. They're all in line for Canelo, but it's like, boxing is boxing. There's all kinds of weight classes. There's all kinds of champions. We have 4 or 5 champions, A division, super champ, diamond champ, all these. Everybody's always in line for one guy. And I get it. It's the business. It's money. But your stock will rise. Like I like Morrell. If you go out there and fight top guys, I'll be pulling for. I'll wear your shirt. I'll buy your merch. I'll have a cap and a koozie, a Morel koozie, whatever. Fight each other. Get your stock. Raise it yourself. Canelo started at 16, went pro at 16, raised his own stock, fought on Floyd undercards. Now we have Carmel fighting on Canelo's undercard. Smart business. These guys that are fighters that know the business, that know what's what, know what to do, and it's by fighting. Guys that fight only elevate your brand. You look good. You go out on your shield. That's only going to elevate you. Nobody ever hated on Gotti or Arturo Gotti because maybe he lost. How did he lose? He went out like a monster. All these guys, nobody says, well, I don't want to tune into that fight. No, he lost, but I'm going to buy his next fight. You should have done that. You went up there, you choked, and now you're going to get the heat like that, you know. So there's my little rant, rave, whatever you want to call it. It is what it is. I love everybody's opinion, and it's like business as usual for Canelo. Who's the next guy?
Hey, let me get a redirect real quick. With Charlo, and this is the crazy thing is the whole smaller fighter notion, it's null and void. Charlo weighed in at 167.4, just like Canelo did. Charlo, came in about 3 inches taller than Canelo. So, like, where is the smaller man? Like, yes, you were coming up from a smaller division, but I think what's being lost is Charlo has pretty much been a weight bully at 154 to begin with, where he's undisputed at. And the thing about Canelo is he's undisputed at 168, and he consistently fights guys that are physically more imposing than he is in the division which he runs. As far as the whole Charlo is the smaller man coming up 2 divisions, I think Charlo just fought somebody closer to his own size, this time, and that was when he did fight somebody closer to his own size, or still smaller than him, he was scared. So that's what I don't get the whole full-throated defense of Charlo coming up 2 divisions in that regard. Also, the blueprint how to beat Canelo and how to do it effectively has been out there since Floyd fought him. Now, adhering to that blueprint, that's a whole totally different proposition. But Floyd did it, Lara did it, Bivol did it with success. And that's the thing that got exposed with Charlo is he's a dude who can't fight going backwards because he's never had to. Floyd, he employed a lot of movement. He was cautious but he was throwing as he was backing up. Lara did the same thing, but Bivol did it more masterfully than anybody else did it. So it was there. The blueprint for Charlo to follow to be effective against Canelo was there, and he was just scared to do it. That was the point I wanted to make in the tail end of my first opportunity to make comments. But that's what I wanted to put out there to finish my point.
I'm gonna chime in real quick because that's an interesting notion, and you're right.
Go ahead, Michael.
Even though I do think that Canelo has obviously developed since the moment he fought Floyd, I think he's learned a lot, and we can make a compelling argument that he's a much better fighter today in terms of boxing IQ and acumen. However, I do think there is a smaller fighter that has the skill set to go in the ring, make it very competitive, and potentially beat Canelo, because Canelo is, in most regard, flat-footed in most cases. And I think that if Bud can get to 168, I am telling you, I'd be willing to make a bet right here, right now, that Bud makes that fight very, very interesting. I'm not saying that Bud's going to win. I just think that Bud could win.
What would be the bet, Mr. Michael Gomes? Right here, right now, what would be the bet that you would put up on that smaller man going up that much?
That much? Look, let's face it. Manny Pacquiao was the smaller guy throughout his entire career, going up and up and up and up and up. And we saw how successful Manny was against guys not only taller, but also bigger. We watched him demolish guys like Cotto, Mosley. I mean,
I didn't ask about Manny Pacquiao.
He wants a number. He wants a number.
Mr. Michael Gomes said I'd make a bet right here, right now. There's a smaller man out there that would make a better fight. I'm not saying win.
If the fight ever happened, I'd be willing to put, depending on the odds, I'd be willing to put about $5,000 on a fight like that.
Better yet, let him get a 1.8 on his next home purchase.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, okay. So this is. I like it because this is what I'm saying. There's always the next guy that once Canelo gets past one, it's okay. That's the next guy, and that happened with Floyd. Let's not forget everything that people hate Canelo for. People hated Floyd for the exact same reasons. Floyd wasn't getting millions of pay-per-view buys because everybody loved him. There was half that loved him, and then there was half that hated him. Canelo is doing exactly what Floyd does with so many things, and people hate it, but act like Canelo invented it. That's not the case. So let's pretend it happens. We've seen Canelo did it himself. I'm going to try and be great. Mikey Garcia, all these guys, a good fighter is just beat by a better, bigger fighter, a good, bigger fighter. So that's big time, Mr. Michael Gomes. So $5K from a guy that's never even fought at 154 to go to 168?
No, wait. You're putting words in my mouth.
Oh, I mean, Canelo fights at 168.
I'm not saying.
That's where
I'm pretty sure you said 5K, Mike.
No, I stand by the 5,000. In fact, I'd be willing to even bet more.
He's trying to bluff his way out now. And the river's about to come.
Wait. He's got to get acclimated at 154, have one or two fights. But here's what I'm saying. Yes, you're right. Like, Canelo lost against a bigger fighter. I don't think Canelo lost against a much more talented fighter. I don't think Bivol is more talented than Canelo. I think, but we could all here, and if let's take a vote, we could all argue that Bud is probably more talented skill set wise to a certain degree than Canelo is. Not by much. But the skill set, I don't think there's anybody more talented in the fight game right now than Bud. I mean, to beat Errol Spence the way he beat Errol Spence, that's why he look. Let me explain to you how significant that victory is for Bud. That put him first ballot Hall of Fame, and that took Errol Spence from Hall of Fame talk. That's how significant that was. Errol Spence is not a Hall of Famer because of Bud Crawford right now. And Bud Crawford could retire today. He's a first ballot because of the ass whooping he gave Spence. And we've seen it before. Bud can fight in many facets. Bud can fight in the middle of the ring. Bud can be very defensive. Bud has a lot of skill set. I think his skill set wise, he edges, right? And now you got, here's the other problem with Bud for Canelo. Bud is the type of guy that if you tell him, no, you can't do it, he wants to go and prove that he can. Bud's also the type of guy that's got a lot of dog in him. I wouldn't want to get into a street fight or a bar fight with a guy like Bud. I'm telling you, he's dangerous.
I think you're understating.
Confidence to be able to look at Charlo, the two brothers, in the middle of the fight without knowing you're going to win and just talk shit in the middle of the fight and do that. I mean, he's a special breed. I don't think that anybody right now that's currently active as a boxer, and I'll even go a step ahead. This is how confident I am rather about Bud. I think Bud is
all the rope.
I think Bud is just as talented as Floyd, in my opinion. I think Bud is Tommy Hearns, old school with new school hybrid fighter. He's the only one, in my opinion, in this class as a hybrid fighter.
Wait, let me pause you there, Mike. Tiffany, let me get, because you're a Bud Crawford fan, so let's get your thoughts. Let's have you chime in.
This thing went up a level when Michael Gomes threw out how much did you say? 5,000?
Let me just say one more thing. That fight, guys, I mentioned it before. Remember the last one? I said that fight comes to fruition. There's too much money on the table for Bud and Canelo not to happen.
This thing just went up. Our whole thing just went up a whole nother level with this topic.
I'm a Bud Crawford fan, true and blue. I'm picking him to beat Canelo. Period. I've said it from the beginning. I have never met a more competitive person in my entire life. We had rest in peace, Coach Michael Stafford. If you were familiar with Adrian Broner, Rashid Warren, He was the head coach for them as Boxers Professional and a couple of others, of course, and the head of Cincinnati Golden Gloves. At his funeral, Terence Crawford came to that funeral. He was outside betting people on basketball games to beat their ass. He told this lady who's in the WNBA he was going to dunk her ass. Like, this shit is crazy. Like, he's competitive against anything. He was saying he was going to have kids beat up other little kids, bring his sons to beat somebody else's kids' ass in Cincinnati. He was beating everybody in football, basketball, boxing. He didn't care. You want to spar? Let's meet at the gym. He's not out at the clubs hanging out like people are going to do after parties and stuff. This dude is in the gym. I don't care what type of gym or field or whatever. He's doing sports, and that's it. And he's going to beat your ass. And he's the most competitive person I've ever met in my entire existence. He beats Canelo Alvarez, period. I put my money on him too. Now, I ain't betting no fucking $5,000.
Okay, so how much money are you betting just to show their seriousness? I don't care what it is. I just want to see how serious people are, because when Michael Gomes says $5,000, I'm like, oh, Michael Gomes is very serious.
I ain't betting $5,000 now.
Oh my God! Look at this guy.
Oh,
Wow!
bankroll.
Wow!
Big bank take little.
I want to say one thing.
Gary, let's get your thoughts.
I think what
The blueprint.
who is this guy? Who is this guy?
Big bank, little bank.
I think Mike.
That's
understated.
why Senator Menendez is under indictment right now, man. Go put that away, man. Jersey boy.
I think Mike understated how big the gap is in skill set between Bud and Canelo. I'm not saying Canelo's not skilled. He fights one way. He fights coming forward. If you can make him not come forward, you can beat him. There's no blueprint on how to beat Crawford. He'll fight righty, he'll fight southpaw, right? He'll come forward, he'll go backward. He'll fight off the jab, he'll bang. He'll fight. And to make a basketball analogy, right? Like, he's Kawhi Leonard. Like, what can Kawhi Leonard improve about his basketball game? Really nothing. Right? What can Terence Crawford improve? Yeah, really nothing. Like, there may be things that certain people can do a little better, but there's no weakness. There's no flaw in his game at all. Like, however he wants to beat you, he'll beat you that way, right? Canelo, and I'm not knocking Canelo, because if they fought, I'm taking Canelo because he's 20 pounds bigger, right?
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for bringing him back down to earth.
Canelo fights one way. If you can take him out of that, right? Like, Canelo's like Greek Freak, where Terence Crawford's like Kawhi Leonard. Like, he's just perfect. Like, there's nothing he can improve possibly in his game. Where, like, okay, Greek Freak does one thing, right? He goes downhill. If you can take him out of that, you can have him, right? Like, how do you beat Terence Crawford? I have absolutely no idea. Like, if I was a trainer, how do we blueprint this guy? You got me.
I gotta just piggyback one more thing, because I gotta shoot out of here. And by the way, that's exactly $5,000. That's exactly $5,000. Don't ask me why I have it in my pocket, but
it's best we don't know.
Here's what I'm gonna say to Gary's point. Right, for many years we wanted Triple G to go up from 160 and go fight at 168. And the reason why Triple G didn't do that is because Triple G's not that big of a guy. He really isn't. He's a 160. That's what he is. I've stood in front of Triple G and I've stood next to Bud. All right. They're not that much in terms of size. Bud is not that much smaller than Triple G is. And here's the thing. You can clearly tell that Bud's power probably will carry with him as he goes up in division. I don't think he loses it. And that's the major thing. What does his power look like? Right? Because if his power carries with him, if he moves up to, let's say, 160, 168, or let's say they fight at a catch weight of 165, right? If his power is there, Canelo is going to have to respect Bud, because, like Gary said, there is no flaw. And there is a flaw. There is a flaw to Canelo's. And again, I'm a Canelo fan. I love him to death. I've been a Canelo fan before he fought Floyd. I think he's great. But I just think apples to apples, Bud Crawford's skill set supersedes Canelo. And the only thing Canelo has over him is just size. Outside of that, if they were even in size right now, we can say that Bud wins that fight. And clearer than what you think, in my opinion.
Can I counter Mr. Aaron, Mike, Tiffany, and Gary being the only Canelo guy here? Okay, so I will not disagree with the $1 million man here about that Bud could be way more skilled, because like you said, he can do it all, and there's no denying that. Nobody's denying Bud Crawford might be or could be better skilled than Canelo. However, there's just weight classes for a reason. That is a saying that is old as time. And you are betting big money, Tiffanie too, are betting big money on a if his power goes to 160, if it translates to 168. Those are major ifs, and there's a reason. Canelo thought, oh, you know what, with the hand injury, I could just go up 8 pounds and fight Bivol, and that won't be an issue. And it turned out that it was. So going up 2 weight classes, just like Mikey Garcia tried with Spence, and we saw what happened with Spence. Well, we saw what happened with Canelo even. He tried it himself. Those are big ifs. And all I'm saying is there could be a 15-year-old that weighs 100 pounds and he's a black belt. But guess what? I'm 200 pounds. And it doesn't matter that he's skilled and has better skills than me. I'm going to grab that man, that little kid, and put his face in the dirt. And it doesn't matter that he's more skilled. I'm just bigger. And that's what Canelo has over Crawford. So I'm not doubting the skills. I'm only saying that's big money on ifs.
Steve, I would agree with you, but then
Steven, you look like you would beat up a 15-year-old.
Yeah, Steve, I would agree with you.
If the money's right.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but I also watched Canelo fight another fighter who had a lot of respect for Kovalev, and who was the much bigger fighter, who was the stronger fighter, and we all know the results that night. And I thought Kovalev would not lose that fight. I really thought that Kovalev was going to win that fight because of just the sheer power. And, you know, he has a skill set, soft a little soft in the middle, but he has a skill set. He has a great jab, and he lost. He got knocked out in that fight, right? I also watched Amir Khan, who was picked wisely to fight him, pretty much before the knockout was winning that fight. And that's why I keep, and that's why I keep, and we all saw what happened versus Bud, right? That's why I keep picking Bud, because I don't think that size is going to matter that much, because the fact that Bud is a bigger guy than what you see on TV. Bud can easily get to 180, no problem. He'll walk around 180. If Tiffanie has been around him, Tiffanie can attest to it. I'm sure you guys have been around him before. He can walk at 180, no problem. He can go to 154, 160. I'm telling you, he can fill that size.
But walk around weight is different than fighting weight. And there's a reason that these guys don't fight at their walk around rate.
No, you're right about that. But when you saw him bully the hell out of Errol the other day, a couple of months ago, the way he did it, that just tells me Bud can go to 154, have no problem being there. He has no problem. So
okay, but then you're talking about 154, no problem, 160, 168. And if I'm Canelo and you're going to come at me like that, I'm conceding nothing. I'm treating you so serious, you're coming to 168 or nothing.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to disagree too much on that point. That's the only edge I give Canelo. Canelo is a powerful 168 pounder. I can understand that argument, but I just look at a guy like Bud, take away the skill set. He also has a lot of power. And I just think that a guy like that, as he goes up in weight, like, let's not forget Canelo, where he started. You know, Canelo went from 147 to 168 fairly quickly. He didn't lose his power going to 168. Like, let's not forget, Canelo was fighting at 147 not too long ago. It wasn't that long ago. How many years ago was he fighting at 147? What, 5 years ago?
The 5 years is a big time. You're talking about Bud doing it in 12 months.
I understand. But I also think Bud is a special fighter. I think he's a once-in-a-generation fighter. So that's why I give him that benefit of the.
I will agree with you.
Steven, though, this is what you're discounting, man. And if you look at the history of boxing and what resurfaces time and time again, all of the greats, they haven't been constrained by weight. Skill set transcends weight, because you said that there's divisions in boxing for a reason, and there's greats in boxing for a reason, because they're not confined by the conventions of weight, especially where weight divisions break down between 5 to 8 pounds. And Canelo himself has proven that. I mean, I'll say it like this: if Canelo can go up to 175 and dust Kovalev, if Canelo can go up against a dude like Bivol, who is supremely skilled and survive and even win a few rounds in that fight, it is not an absurd notion.
100%, but we have the benefit of hindsight. We have the benefit of 100%. I'm not saying because Canelo did it, Crawford cannot. I'm not saying that at all. I'm only saying big money's put on ifs, and I'm a bettor too. But what I'm saying is I have the benefit of hindsight.
I just want to let that be known. I've changed my lifestyle. I do not bet. I do not gamble anymore. So hey, I'm here to talk shit. I'm not laying any money down on what I'm saying.
But can we all agree? Can we all agree? We can all say the benefit of saying that argument, which Michael Gomes is using and Cortney's using and Tiffanie and Gary are using, is Canelo did it, so why can't Bud? And I'm not discrediting that. That is perfectly said.
I'm not confining it to Canelo though. I'm saying Roy Jones did it. I'm saying Sugar Ray Robinson did it. I'm saying Floyd did it. I'm saying De La Hoya did it. I'm saying
Pacquiao did it.
People did it. So Crawford can also do it.
Exactly. But what I'm only saying is I'm only giving you the other side to y'all's side, which is that they have the benefit of showing it's been done. You're betting big money on an if. So that's the only thing that I'm not
betting any money. I did not pull out.
I'm gonna have to start a GoFundMe just to be able to jump in there with Mr. Michael Gomes.
Look, and I'll if that's the case, I'll bring it down to 1,000 if you want. But
oh my God, now he's trying to big time me. Okay,
I'm willing to make that bet on a special fighter like that. The same way I am willing to make. I would be willing to make that same exact bet for special fighters like Floyd Mayweather, like Manny Pacquiao. Like we've disregarded. They've all gone up a way. Floyd lost, I think, his power as he's gone up. Manny Pacquiao was able to carry his power all the way through, right? The same way Canelo was able to carry his power all the way through. I've looked at Bud's frame. I look at frame. That's how I look. That's how I judge a guy. That's why I look at Triple G and I look at Triple G. Triple G wouldn't be able to go to 168 and carry his power, or go to 172, 175 and carry his power. Canelo's got a big frame. You look at his back, right? Bud has a very similar frame. Bud can easily go to 160, 168 and still be strong and powerful. He may need some time to get acclimated, but if there is any fighter that can do it within the next 12 months to, let's say, 2 years, and be able to go against a guy like Canelo, and be able to beat him, I think he's the one. Do you think that Bud can put a better performance than Charlo? Same weight class?
We would all agree to that.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Hey, I'm gonna do what I do though. I'm gonna piss on this parade a little bit by putting a little sprinkling that people are not thinking about or maybe they're missing. Canelo and Crawford are homies. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like not just like friendly, cordial, like they, you know what I'm saying, they breed horses and dogs together. Like that, you know what I'm saying? That's something that's really not known or not talked about widely or whatever. But they are very, you know what I'm saying, they are very friendly. And the thing that with Crawford is, I think Crawford has to hate you a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I think Crawford has to have ill feelings towards you in order to fight you, to motivate him to get in the ring against you.
I disagree.
You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, Crawford, he really doesn't fight. He really doesn't fight people he's friendly with. You know what I'm saying?
He didn't hate Spence.
So, like, hey,
boxing's a business. These guys are in it for legacy. Certain guys are in it for legacy.
I know. People are saying there's too much money on the table for that fight not to happen. I'm just saying it like this, man. I look at how people are talking. You know what I'm saying? When that, and the responses I'm hearing from both of them are they're really tepid. They're really tepid. That just does not. Hey, I'll be the happiest person on this panel if the fight gets made, because y'all know I'm a crackhead. I'm a fiend like that. I love me some boxing.
Time out.
I agree to that point, Courtney.
Let me ask you a question. So you get one fight. You get Canelo versus Benavidez or Canelo versus Crawford. Which would you rather have?
It's not about what I would rather have.
But that's his question.
Like there's 17 weight classes. Just pick one and fight the guys in your weight class. Like I'd rather him fight Benavidez than Crawford.
Me too. That's not
Hey,
that's
but
not,
that's what
yeah,
we
that's
can cut
not
up in stands. What we always think about this in terms of what we want or what we'd rather see. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's not about rather
You know
see.
what I'm saying?
It's about a magical look. Benavidez, I think, can beat Canelo, in my opinion. That's a dangerous fight for Canelo. It's about one fighter doing something impossible and creating a magical moment. That's what it's about. That's what Oscar De La Hoya tried to do with Bernard Hopkins and failed short, right? That's what Canelo tried to do against Bivol, right? But that's what it's about. I mean, if you get Bud to do that and he does it successfully, where does that put Bud in terms of
at the top?
Off the charts.
legacy? Where does that
three
put
times
Bud? I mean,
Go.
That's why he doesn't have to hate him to do it. It's a legacy thing. So
what it means.
so to
And
Courtney's
that's what it
point,
is. It's not
that's
just
where I
about the
disagree.
money for him. If it's about the legacy, if Bud can pull this off, we can make a compelling argument that Bud is the greatest of all time. That's the compelling argument. He's the greatest of all time. He beat Spence the way he beat Spence. He made Spence look like an amateur fighter, and he goes in and beats Canelo 2 weight classes. I mean, that's legacy. Legacy. That's what he's fighting for, and that's where I disagree with Courtney. I don't think it
But hold on, but also on that legacy tip, it takes 2 to tango in boxing.
And what does Canelo always say
If
he
you
fights
look at-
for?
if you listen to Canelo's
Legacy.
responses, if you listen, Canelo was on wax and saying that in that fight, in that proposed matchup, I wouldn't really get any respect out of that. He said, you know what I'm saying? He said all the glory would go to Crawford on that. What's in that for me?
He did say that too in the press conference. He said Bud Crawford's not in the plans at the post-fight presser. He did say that.
But there's nobody really on Canelo's level. I mean, besides Terence Crawford. I mean, yeah, he could fight Benavidez because we want him to fight him because he seems like a tough, formidable, like he can beat his ass. But that's what we want. But he don't really. He's just the boogeyman supposedly, but he hasn't really he lost his belt on the scales. He's undisciplined. You know what I mean?
He lost it 2 times.
Right. So why do you deserve that? You know, that's how I feel. It's like you
Got dropped by Ronald Gavril walking in. What are you're gonna walk into Canelo's shot? No, thank you.
Right. That's how I
And
feel.
the thing about Canelo is Canelo fights the bigger dudes aggressively. You know what I'm saying? Canelo is a very aggressive against the bigger guys. When Canelo fights smaller guys, he's kind of almost baffled because he's uncomfortable in it. It's not a good fit for him. You know what I'm saying? So typically the bigger the guy is, the better Canelo looks, the better of a Canelo fight it is. So
Mike, do you think Bud could beat the other super middleweights? Do you think he could beat Benavidez? Do you think he could beat David Morrell? Or do you think it's just Canelo because Canelo's short for the division?
I think that Bud's style, his skill set's tailor-made for Canelo.
So if I said he's going to fight Benavidez or Morrell next, you would pick one of the bigger guys. You wouldn't pick Bud.
No, I pick Bud over Morrell. I don't pick Bud over Benavidez. I think Benavidez is a very, very, very strong fighter. Not right now.
I see what you did there, Gary, and I like it.
Yeah, not right now.
I'm asking. I don't pick guys. I've been wrong. I thought Barrios would be too big for Tank. Right? I've been wrong on these. I thought Margarito would be way too big for Pacquiao. I've been dead wrong on these things before. Right? So,
but I think if Bud is acclimated at 154, 160, he'll beat Benavidez no problem. I'm referring to right now. If Bud went right now, that's what I'm referring to. If Bud went right now and fought Benavidez, I don't think Bud can beat Benavidez because of size. But I think if Bud is acclimated at 154, and they make an exception at a catch weight of 165, or even if they fought at 168, I think Bud wins. Because at the end of the day, look, it's not like he's Paulie Malignaggi where he's not going to have no power at 168. He's still going to have enough power at 168. I don't care what anybody says. He'll still have enough power to be able to put somebody on their ass. That's just the truth. He's got that kind of power, even right now. Even if he moved up to 168 and made a drastic leap, he's got enough power in his hands, in both hands, to put anybody down.
We don't know that.
So I look at skill set. When Manny Pacquiao fought anybody or Floyd fought anybody, it wasn't about power. It was like, oh shit, no, it's about skill set. Like, when was the last time that Floyd knocked anybody out? It was never about power. It was always about skill set. Most guys that are great in the ring, right? Even though against Charlo, even though I thought Canelo would put him down, I thought he would win the fight, via TKO. It wasn't about Canelo having enough power to put Charlo down. It was simply that Canelo is just more skillful. I put more stock and value on skill set than I do on power, because we saw people like Paulie Malignaggi, Paulie have a great career with very, very little power, right? Beat guys that were very skillful, right? And he did it without, or not without, but very little power, right? Paulie didn't have any power at all. We've seen a lot of guys go throughout their entire career, not much power, but very, great skill set and win. Right?
I like the argument, Mr. Gomes. But again, I go back to if. And if my aunt had a penis, she'd be my uncle. And so that's where we're at. You know what I mean? I don't know what's going to happen.
You're right about that. But this is not an if. We know that Bud's going to 154, right? We all know that that's going to happen.
Okay, now add 14 more pounds.
And that's fine. I understand that. Hey, look, you think Mike Tyson was a real heavyweight?
No.
Or do you think Mike was a cruiserweight at best? Mike was a cruiserweight. Mike was demolishing guys at
I
heavyweight.
can say like Usyk. So to your point, yes.
You're right. There you go. Exactly. Real life. All right. So come on, guys. I mean, it's not far-fetched. It is not far-fetched. We have two guys that we just gave great examples. What's the difference? There's no difference. The only difference is Bud is actually more talented than both those fighters, in my opinion. Right? Again, Tyson had flaws. I don't know about Usyk having flaws. I don't think he has flaws. Maybe last fight, in the center, he may be a little soft. I mean, the verdict is out whether or not that was a low blow or not. But I don't see any flaws in Bud. I really don't.
Do you think it's because there's no flaws because we haven't seen somebody challenge him to the Canelo's level? And I won't even say Canelo. Let's just pretend it's somebody as elite because we thought we were going to get that elite chess match with Spence, and it turned out and not so much. But
I wouldn't understand how good Crawford is.
No,
Let me answer this.
Errol is elite. Errol is elite. We can't downplay Errol. We can't look at what Errol has not done, or rather what Errol has done in the past, and all of a sudden the buck stops there. Errol is elite.
No, I'm saying there's certain guys that can bring the most out of you. And when they bring the most out of you, you can also see your flaws. So we've seen that with Canelo. We had a high-level, high-class Floyd Mayweather bring out Canelo's flaws. We haven't seen Bud's sparring partner per se bring out the flaws, and that's where Bud, has a little bit of vulnerability. We thought we were going to get that with Spence, is what I was saying, and we ended up not getting that.
Bud's greatest asset is the fact that he can adapt in the ring to pretty much any style. That's his greatest asset.
I wanted to say that, right?
All right, you guys are going to say this is a poor. Y'all are going to say this is a poor analogy because of there's going to be the variance in size, but look how he responded to when Gamboa had him out on his feet. You know what I'm saying? Like that. You know what I'm saying? We've seen we was that a skill set? Is that even worth Is that even worth?
It's harder than Aegis Kovalevsky and Gamboa, and they rocked Bud a little.
We've seen Bud face that adversity though. We've seen Bud hurt and how he reacts.
Guys were at 158.
I wanted to say that, right? Like he was out on his feet with Gamboa, came back, knocked him out. Against Sean Porter, Bomac goes, "You're a loser. You have to knock him out." He's like, "I gotta knock him out. I'm losing." Bomac's like, "So what did he do? He went out and knocked him out the next round, right?" Like Bud, I get it. Bud is special. He's different, right? But like I'm still gonna go with the guy 20 pounds bigger, right? Because it's not like the guy 20 pounds bigger is Munguia. It's Canelo. It's not like Canelo's some bum. It's like that's a pound for pound. Now, Crawford's more skilled than Canelo, and if you could shrink Canelo down to 147, Crawford would pick him apart. But he's not. He's fighting a guy much bigger than him, so I'm gonna take the guy much bigger than him.
He's not much bigger though.
That's understandable, but he's not much bigger. That's the problem.
He's not much bigger.
He's built much. He's stronger.
No, he's not. Guys, I was in New York. Canelo was not that big. I was literally right next to Canelo, and I was next to Charlo. And I'm not a small guy. Like I'm 175 pounds, 5'7". I have a wide frame. I'm waist 34. Like I have a wide back.
Michael Gomes is trying to get a fight out there. He's putting his fight stats out.
Charlo, the three times that I was next to Charlo, and the 4 times I was next to Canelo. When I say next to, guys, like here, all right. Charlo always seemed the bigger guy. Canelo did not seem big, and I've been next to Bud. Bud is not much smaller than Canelo. I'm telling you guys, he is not much smaller. He's a big 147. Say it again.
Bud is bigger than Floyd Mayweather.
By far.
Sure.
No, by far. Not even a comparison.
The difference, you know what I mean? Like he's not and he's strong. So like he's still cut. Like he's not out here with no beer belly. This dude is like muscular. That's like muscle weight. So
And
Wood is-
he wrestled. He
Yeah.
has a background. He was a high school wrestler, state, you know what I'm saying, state championship level. You know what I'm saying? So like that's the thing, when that wrestler build or that strength that you have inherently, that muscle memory from that, like he's solid. You know what I'm saying? Like you it's gonna be, and Spence showed it's very hard to push that dude off you when he has momentum on you.
Hulk Hogan wrestled and Rocky beat Hulk Hogan. Thunderlips.
Now you gave me something to think about, right?
It's not real.
I've been
It's not
next to
real,
small
y'all.
guys.
You gave me something to think about.
Lomachenko, who's small. Bud is a bit. Look, Bud is a big guy.
If
Bud's
you
a big
gave me
guy.
Floyd against even this version, the 168-pound version of Canelo, I'd still pick Floyd, right? So maybe Crawford. Like
That's
you know
actually,
what I'm
look,
saying?
that's a great analogy. That's
Yeah.
actually a great analogy. If you're saying that, is it far-fetched to say that Bud, who's got very similar skill set to Floyd, who's got very similar boxing IQ and acumen, it's not far-fetched.
And how far has he come since that? Gary,
If you
though?
can
For a
move on
21-year-old
Canelo and you can still keep a jab in his face,
Floyd still beat him. Floyd still beating him.
you know what I'm saying?
Floyd still
If you
beating
can,
him.
Wow,
if
we're
you
just out
can
here
move
in-
No, wait,
and
Gary,
get off
hands
on
and butts.
Canelo,
Gary, not
It's-
Floyd right now, but if you're saying the
No.
same Floyd that fought
Peak
Canelo,
Floyd
yes,
that beat Canelo
yes,
beats the
yeah, he
168
still beats Canelo.
Yeah.
He still beats Canelo. I
So
agree.
peak
if
Floyd
you can
versus
show
21-year-old
movement and
Canelo.
still
Okay.
get him off on Canelo, it's not. Hey, you can win.
No,
You
Steve,
can win. It's
Steve,
been
what-
done before. It's
what
been
I'm
done
saying is-
before.
the Floyd that beat Canelo, that Floyd versus current Canelo, who are you taking?
I'm taking the bigger guy. Also, okay, here's the question: where are they fighting at? Because
He was
there's
the
a
bigger guy
reason.
then too, though. He
There
the
was a
bigger guy.
reason. There was a reason that Floyd said, "Come down to where I'm at." Canelo now can say, "Hey, if we're trying to get busy, you're going to come to X weight." So there's a reason
Hey.
too. We're also talking about different variables that, Gary, to your point, you're saying peak Floyd against Canelo now. Okay, fine, but Canelo now is also X age and also gone up in weight and has taken shots from other people. So what happens if he does what he does against Charlo, where the jab is coming from Floyd, sure, but he's like, hey, now I eat that shit for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So guess what? Now you're effed.
But how old?
Steve, I
was
got
Floyd
a Steven,
when
I
he
got a question. Steve, I got a question though, because you've been in the throes of this boxing addiction just as long as I've been. When Floyd and Canelo fought, who did you have?
Oh, I had
All voices
Canelo.
to the side.
I had Canelo.
What?
I had
Hey,
Canelo
Hey,
for
your
the same. I've been a
delusion is on the
fan.
table, yo. Your delusion is on the
I've been a
table.
fan.
Steve, you can't look. My
I've been a
son.
fan. I
cut
can't
it
be a
right.
fan. I can't be a fan of somebody.
You can be a
The
fan,
same-
but you got to be realistic, bro. My
He's
son's
biased.
named. My son's named Gaddy after Toro
We
Gaddy,
know,
right? My
we
youngest
know.
son is named Gaddy. When he fought Floyd, I said he has
You
a
did that
0%
shit?
chance of beating Floyd. Like you got to be realistic, bro. Like
No. I'm
Canelo-
not. But I'm saying I bet the same way that other people bet. If he does this, he could win. Did I say that Canelo was going to win? Not at all. I said I wanted him to win because
you
at this
wanted him
time.
to win.
No,
Yeah,
I
he
wanted
asked
him to
you,
win.
who did you have in the fight? Not who.
Oh, you know who's going to do it. The guy that's the best TBE. You know. But what I'm saying is.
wait,
There you
Gary,
go.
I
There
was
you
at
go.
that fight. I was at the Gaddy versus Mayweather fight.
He
in the last-
forced that TBE out of his mouth, yo. He didn't want to say that.
But
He didn't
that's the
wanna give
difference.
those props.
That's the difference. I'm a
is
boxing fan. I'm a boxing fan, and I can say Canelo's lost to Floyd. He could have lost to Lara. He could have lost to Triple G. That's the difference between me and a lot of other boxing people. Where I'll tell you the truth. I can say who I want to win, and this is why I'm saying the truth with Bud and Canelo. Y'all are all about raw Bud because of what have you done for me lately, and Bud looked tremendous, so skilled against Spence, and I get that. But now you're saying just the same way I wanted something to happen. Now you're saying I think Bud can shoot up 20 pounds and take on Canelo, and you're like, okay, but that's not how boxing gets down. There's a reason that Crawford hasn't been fighting at 168 because that's not where he fights at.
for right now. He's gonna.
Right, it's also his natural weight class,
Canelo.
and there's huge money fights there for him, like Errol Spence. Like that's why he fights there, right? It's his natural weight, it's his best weight.
But
And
Michael
there's big
Gomes
money
wants
fights
him doing it in 12 months. There's a reason Canelo, he made mistakes. He said, I should have never gone down that low. I should have never fought people. So people do stuff for money or whatever, and then you realize that was a mistake. That happens in boxing.
Canelo was also vegan, by the way, against Brazil. Just FYI, I'm being serious.
I feel
From
like
an athlete standpoint, that is a big mistake if you shy away from meat and you try to be competitive, especially if you're a boxer or an athlete, soccer player. That's a no-no. That's a no-no. There's a reason why the Argentinian soccer team flew out 300 pounds of meat during the World Cup.
Well, it also helps when you have Messi.
It's true. It's
You can eat salads if you have Messi on your team.
You know, but anyway, look, it's a dream matchup, but I think that it will come to fruition. I think there's enough money there for the discussion to. In fact, I'm pretty sure that discussions are being had already. You know, it's a matter of, well, this has to happen. This has to happen. Meaning like Canelo's got to go through his contract. He's got to go beat Benavidez. You know, Bud's got to go in at 154. He's got to beat one. Whether he wants to or not, he's got to go fight one of the Charlo brothers at 154. Right? He's going to have to do it, regardless of whatever his sentiments were with Jermell from this past Saturday. He's going to have to fight one of them. He's going to have to fight Errol. You know, my understanding is that the rematch clause is set for 154. I don't know why that's even happening. I think Errol gets beat. I think, in my opinion, Errol gets beat even worse.
Big thing that's coming up is that WBO convention here in October, I think on the 10th, and that's going to pretty much force hands to where it's like, you're going up because you have to, or fine, you can stay at 147. But the WBO convention will on the 10th in the Dominican will definitely tell us everybody's next plans, because we have a lot of guys out there at 147 waiting on that news.
Well, Charlo was stripped of the WBO 154 belt, right? So now when you fight at with WBO belt, when you move up, you're automatically the mandatory, right? So that's going to be Crawford. So I think they're going to have the Crawford Spence fight for at least the WBO belt is what I would think. Like they're going to fight for the WBO belt. So it'll be
Tim Zoo. That's already Tim Zoo's belt.
Yes,
the WBO title
interim champ though, isn't
it already belongs to Tim Zoo. He was the interim title holder.
And
so
then
as soon as Charlo stepped in the ring against Canelo, Tim Zoo became the WBO champion at 154.
So they could put Crawford. Okay,
there you go.
Okay, then.
Hey, congratulations! Great. I mean, I guess.
If Tim Zoo that's gonna suck.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be it for episode 94 of the Standing 8 podcast. Very lively discussion. Yep, spicy. The sauce, everything, all the dressings. You know what? I want to give a shout out to the lively chat that we had going on. So I'm just going to highlight some random comments from those who posted in the chat. Shout out to Jaime Garza, All Access Elite, Jimmy Blue. Shout out to you, man. Tommy Russ Jr. What's up, bro?
Tommy Buns.
Here. There you go. The Godfather
D-Rock.
of the podcast, D-Rock, Daniel Pena. What's up, man? Always appreciate you greatly. Who else we had on? Alvarez. Thank you for joining in. Shout out to Nora Rodriguez, and just going down more. But yeah, shout out to you, man. And I'm gonna go carousel style. Tiffany, any closing thoughts? Shout out to you want to give out before we end it tonight.
Shout out to Ohio Runs Boxing, all my Cincinnati boxing people out here. Shout out to the panelists of Standing 8 podcast. And to all the boxing fans out there, man, we really had a treat this year. So hopefully we can end it with a bang. And 2024 is even better, I hope. And I want to shout out Jermell Moulton. When we were out in Vegas for the Bud Spence fight, he was really gracious to my son. My son's a big fan of his. And so we got to take a bunch of pictures. So congratulations on that great stoppage pro debut. Shout out to Jermell Moulton. And I hope you guys have a great week.
Great stuff, Tiffany. Let's go to you, Mr. Stephen Ruiz, also the owner of Ringside Global. Check his page out on Instagram. But go ahead, Stephen. Any closing thoughts, shout outs? Go ahead, man.
As always, Standing 8 podcast. We're out here for perfect debates just like this. This is exactly what you want when you're talking boxing, barbershop conversations, the stuff that people really want to talk about. So shout out Aaron for putting it on. Shout out to Michael Gomes, Cortney out there serving our country, Gary 3D always doing big stuff, Miss Tiffanie nurturing the upcoming boxers and also with her referee stuff. So shout out, we always see you getting busy. My stuff, Ringside Global. And I'm going to say to Alexis Rocha and Coach Hector, I'm going out there to Cali this month. So I'll be in Los Angeles. I might hit up Michael Gomes for some of his airline points or some pocket cash to maybe buy some popcorn or something. But I'll be out there watching Alexis Rocha fight Giovanni Santillan in a big fight.
I'll be there with you as well. So
Aaron's going to meet me up. So we're going to be out there, half the team's linking up there. So shout out to Jimmy Blue, Jose Rendon, guys that helped me spar. I have a big boxing chat. Tommy's in it too. And man, we're out there every day sparring all the time. So shout out to everybody out there that's supporting the movement. And this is what boxing's all about.
Great stuff, Steven. Gary of 3dboxingblog.com. I always enjoy reading your articles, especially the upcoming fighters in the Texas region. But go ahead, Gary. The podium is yours. Any closing thoughts, shout outs you want to give out? Go ahead, Gary.
Good Durarte. Also, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. This is a lively discussion. Have a really good time. Find me all from social media, 3D Boxing, 3D Boxing Blog. You can also find me on Texas Boxing Scene. It's always an honor, a privilege. It's a blessing to be on the show. I really enjoy it.
Great stuff, Gary. Cortney, the brown bird sugar, overseas, always out there representing our country. And thank you for your humanitarian efforts as well. Always repping life, boxing, your knowledge. Go ahead, Cortney, with your thoughts and shout-outs.
Hey, as always, it's been a blessing to be back on. Shout out to the First Lady of Boxing, Tiffanie Daniels. Hey, shout out to my arch nemesis, Stephen Ruiz. Hey, shout out to the man who got me that 2.5 APR on my home, Michael Gomes, forever indebted. Hey, shout out to Gary. Lovely to have you on once again. Thank you so much for coming and rocking with us. And hey, Aaron, thank you for being the glue and putting this together. Shout out to D-Rock for for getting active on the threads. Shout out to my man Tommy Buns, Tommy Rush Jr. Hey, if y'all are in the Texas area, hey, hit him up. Hey, still doing his thing with the catering and the barbecue down there. Providing an essential service. And shout out to everybody we're in collaboration with, and shout out to our international viewers, everybody in all 6 continents. I'm sure there's some people rocking with us in Antarctica. We just don't know about it. But hey, we thank y'all for loving us so much. We love you for it, and furthering the movement that we got going on here. Hey, stay with us, and we promise we're gonna stick with y'all and keep on providing great comment on this sport of kings and peasants alike that we all love and flows through us. Hey, thank you. God bless, and y'all stay amazing and be great out there.
Thank you, Cortney. Michael Gomes, what's up, man? From Signature Realty Group, New Jersey. Any closing thoughts, shout out you want to give out? Go ahead, Michael.
Homage to everybody that's on this right now. Tiffanie, Steve, Gary, obviously Cortney, you, Aaron, for obviously putting this together and making sure that we deliver value. Shout out to everybody who participated on the comments. I thought we had a great show today. A lot of what ifs, according to Steve. But this is what it's about, right? It's about being fans. It's about dreaming, and it's about sitting back and enjoying what could be history in the future. So shout out to everybody. Enjoy. Have a great what is this? Monday. It's a Monday. Have a great Monday. And God bless everyone. All right.
Beautiful, beautiful guys. And
wait, Steven, just in case, it's still there.
Hey, let me solo you in on that. Wait, hold up.
He's got his own bobblehead. He's got all that money out there, man.
The money
Nobody told me that we needed to come out here and be all Ric Flair on the chat. Y'all should have told me that. Okay, next time.
Hey, my man,
Tell
get
me
that
correct.
Bob Menendez money.
That's the money team for real.
Yeah, I wish.
Yo, but fire show, everyone. Thank you again, Tiffanie Daniels, Stephen Ruiz, Gary Kittleson of 3D Boxing Blog, Cortney the Burt Brown Sugar overseas representing, Michael Gomes out of New Jersey. I'm here in Soriao from Los Angeles. Shout out to D-Rock, one of the founding members, Tommy Rush Jr. with us in the chat. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to all the boxing pages and movements out there. Supreme Boxing, Just Boxing, the podcast, Just Boxing, the foundation, and Vivo Boxing, Supreme Boxing, Front Proof Media. Sorry, I forgot to mention any of your pages, but you know who you are. We appreciate you. God bless everyone. Have a safe night, everyone. We're out. Peace.